You're listening to the Outdoor Drive Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Outdoor Drive Podcast. This is episode 143. Actually, in the studio of Connecticut, we got a couple of good buddies here joining us. Actually a killer crew. We'll start off to my left.
The Madman Martic in the house.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble.
The Snake Snatcher Schnall from Maryland.
And Mark Buzzel, Noreaster game calls.
Ooh, that's a good killing crew, huh? Jeez, man. I know we're missing out on Steve. He's on vacation. Happy anniversary to him. He's on his 15th wedding anniversary down in Florida. So,
enjoy the hot tub.
Yeah, the jacuzzi. Good for him, man. I'm actually pretty excited for him. So happy anniversary to him. But no, we decided we were going to do a podcast. Actually, we were supposed to do one with me and Sean about antlers and shed hunting and everything that we had going on. So then Madman Martic, while we were gone, he ended up killing a bird. So we're like, all right, well, you got to do a Tales for the Tailgate. But then Mark was going to be in town. So we just decided, you know what, let's just collaborate together and let's have a podcast. I mean, I guess that's a real podcast in studio. So what's better than that? Let me just go through the housekeeping and all the things that we have to go through. And then we're going to let the chains come undone. So first but not least, sponsors. We'll start off with Huntworth, huntworthgear.com. If you guys don't have Huntworth, you guys are definitely missing out. Some of the best gear that I've ever used, honestly, especially the early season stuff. It is phenomenal. They have the butt pads and the knee pads. I mean, for early season and using that stuff, it's rugged as a winter tire, honestly. Bowfishing Magazine, bowfishingmagazine.com. If you guys are bow fishermen, or even if you're not or interested in it, go and check those guys out. They got some good stuff. And then Noreaster Game Calls, noreastergamecalls.com. Get them in close. There still is a ton of turkey calls, turkey pot calls, box calls. You name it, you need it, they got it. Head on over to there, noreastergamecalls.com. Get those. Also working on the grunt tubes. Deer season starting to roll into effect. So we got the Jurassic series. I'll let that go. Good stuff. You guys have probably seen those that have come out. So get on over to noreastergamecalls.com. We are also partnered with Latitude Outdoors, latitudeoutdoors.com. They make the Method and the Classic too. Great saddles. There is some more stuff. They did a little bit of a release on their new platform. There's more stuff to come with them. We'll have them in a couple of episodes, so stay tuned for that. Zeus Broadheads, Noreaster. Oh, wow. I screwed that one up. Yeah, you get a double. Zeus Broadheads, newairarchery.com. They are the home of the B16, the Zeus Broadheads, the Aries. They got just about everything that you need. And also, there is a new broadhead coming down the line. So keep your eyes out for that stuff there. So now the housekeeping's done. Now we can have a little bit of fun. What do you boys think?
Sounds good.
Get it.
So the past, I mean, me and Sean had taken off. When did we take off?
We left on a Friday. I'm not sure what the date was.
I don't know. It was like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
You're
I
at
think
my place on a Thursday.
we were on your house on a Thursday?
Yes, sir.
So it wasn't. So then I guess we didn't.
Well, we were in the Northwoods on Friday. We were shed hunting Friday afternoon. So
Okay.
you're right. We were up at Mark's house. On Thursday.
We were there on Thursday. We stayed overnight after we had left there. So we stopped by Mark's house on the way up. It was cool being in the shop. Mark made up a really nice dinner. That was awesome.
Yeah. And deer steak, potatoes, and then play a little bit with the mouth calls and start coming out with something maybe possibly a little bit different.
It was cool to play around in the shop and mess around with those things because now we're one-on-one. Because when we had messed around with those things to begin with, it was like, all right.
Yeah, here comes a case of calls your way. Let me know what you think.
Play with this one, play with that one. And then, but it was really nice to be there and just mess around with a couple different things.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I mean, as always. I mean, if you're going to Maine, you got to stop by Mark's shop.
I agree.
You can't miss out on that stuff. So then we had taken off into the Northwoods, and things just were nuts. I mean, it was your first trip into the Northwoods.
Oh yeah, first time ever being that far in Maine for sure. I've been to Maine one other time. That was for bear hunting last fall, but that was southern Maine. That wasn't anything like what we were doing.
Being up there is something different, dude. And especially camping off the grid and being, I don't know. I mean, it's nuts. I don't want to get into too much detail because I don't want to give away too much, but there's definitely...
Yeah, I mean, you just have to be really prepared. I mean, we had to make sure we had extra gas and all that kind of stuff that you might need because there's no going back to town and going back home to get anything like that, or even calling somebody to get yourself unstuck. You know, there's none of that.
Yeah, I mean, we have a jack, a come-along, we got first aid amenities, chainsaws. I mean, you have pretty much anything and everything. And, Mark, you're from the area, so you know what's...
Yeah, I agree. If you get stuck up there, you're on your own. There is no cell phone service. It's not like you can stand out by the road and wait for somebody to go by.
Well, we did find a couple. We did find a couple loopholes in the cell phone service. But
yeah,
that's true. So I did get a call from you while I'm in my turkey blind, setting up on turkeys, and my phone rings, and it's Trevor. I'm like, that's impossible. And it was him. He's like, hey man, I need those pins. I'm like, yeah, I'll get hold of Ethan. That was wild.
Yeah. So because what happens is you're getting TELUS, I guess. That's like, I don't know if it's Canada. I don't know if
I've heard of TELUS communication before. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know anything about that, but
you will when you get your bill.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing you got to be careful about.
Yeah, roaming.
Yeah, exactly. So the first couple of days were real tough up there. I mean, just grinding it out, trying to find different areas and stuff like that.
And then running into areas that people had already been, because it's very competitive up there as well. We were seeing lots of other guys out.
I mean, there was one guy that was up there, dude. He had 60 browns by the time we had already got there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just the one guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's taking out clients and so on and so forth, and he's constantly up there. And that's one of the negative things about like us going up there is that these guys are constantly researching it. They're there all the time. They're running those roads constantly. I mean, those guys know it. I mean, it's like us with whitetail. We know where to find the whitetail sheds. You know, so those guys
comes into play.
They're living that. You know, so that's a huge thing up there. I mean, scouting is a huge part of it. I mean, knowing the right terrain and the right areas to go into. You know, like we say, you want the best, biggest sheds, you go into the shittiest clear cut ever, and that's where you're going to find the sheds. I promise you, they're all there. You guys want to go find them, get in the shittiest clear cut, and that's where you find a shed.
Yeah.
That's what we looked for the whole entire time that we were there, was these bad clear cuts. And
it was some terrible walking. I mean,
it's an ongoing joke, so I couldn't keep it serious for too long. Because we always said, because everybody asks, right, when they see that we have brown antlers, and I said, Sean, you can't tell. Everyone's going to ask you, bro. They're going to ask, right? They're going to say, well, where did you get your sheds? What do I do when I get up there? And Sean goes, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to find the shittiest clear cut. That's the place to be, I promise you. Yeah. and if
get into the center of that thing, and you might not even make it out alive, honestly, dude. I don't know.
So we had picked a couple of spots and we had gone into on one of the days, and Sean was like, he's like, dude, just drop me off in this corner. It's on the backside of this clear cut. He goes, I'm just going in there. I see that there's a clear cut on the map, or like, cuttings. And I'm like, all right, dude, that's what you want to do, right? So I go into on the high side. I drop him off on the low side. So he comes out. And he's like, bro, it's the best sign I ever seen, right? He's like, you got to go through this pine thicket.
Yeah, this is when I hadn't seen actually what good sign was yet.
I know.
Because, like, I've never been up there before. We're walking around. We're seeing moose shit and everything and moose rubs and whatever. I'm like, yeah, dude, this is cool. Like, there's sign around. I'm expecting to see something. It wasn't crazy sign, but it was good. And then,
Yeah,
so I'm like, yeah, guys, you got to come over here because this is like the best shit ever.
So we stopped from what we're doing, right? So we're like, all right, we're going to go down in the corner with Sean. He found good sign. That's what we're looking for. Good sign. So we go into this pine grove, and not that, but you have to walk maybe a couple thousand yards to get into it. We get back in there. It had just been cut. Dude, there's like mud bogs. There's like tracks from where the machines had gone through. It's like over my head. My dog is dying. Walking over these giant logs. I'm like, bro, where's the moose sign? Well, there's shit right there. I said, yeah, that's from 17 years ago, dude. We're definitely not in the right place. I'm like, all right, we're never letting the newbie decide on what's good sign, right? But no, we got into them pretty good. I mean, after the first day, we got back to camp. You decided you're gonna go in the woods, and
right across the street from camp, and it was a spot that Trev definitely would not have wanted to walk in. It was one of those clear cuts. He's like, yeah, I wouldn't have gone in there, but I ended up finding a 9-pounder, old one, but it was still really nice. Better than nothing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for a while, that held the biggest shed that was found the whole entire trip. I mean, 9 pounds is a big shed.
Well, I mean, really, well, yeah. What Mikey found one that was pretty big, but
Oh,
other
that's
than
right.
that, I mean, me and you both had a 9-pounder, and Mikey had one that was bigger than that. So I mean, it was pretty nice, especially for right across the street from camp.
Yeah. And so then the days had kind of gone on, and every single day, man, it was just pick after pick after pick. I mean, it wasn't like crazy, but it was like slow and steady. We were definitely finding antlers, some browns, some whites. We're getting in the sign. We decided to make the call and kind of go back to some of the older areas that we had already shed hunted previous years, because we're like, well, we know it. The moose got to be there, so let's go into those areas. And then we ended up finding them, got on some areas. I found a brown on my GPS 20 feet from where I found a brown the year before, which was pretty cool.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and Sean was like, well, what happens if you didn't find that brown last year? Then you would have had a brown and a white next to each other within 20 feet. And I was like, yeah, but I'd rather find the brown. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You want the browns. You just do. You
Better
do.
go back to that spot next year.
Yeah, but it's pretty
You gotta
cool
check
just
it.
to, yeah.
Yeah, you got to check it. Maybe
Maybe
it'd
go
be
back for 3.
yeah, maybe it'd be 50 feet, right? Screw it. But what I really want to highlight of the trip, obviously, is that you found a very unique antler. It was kind of cool because how that had all gone down at first was we were checking out a place. A good friend of ours, Rich, told us to go over on this road. So we get up on that road and we come on down and we go down the turnaround. Now, mind you, this is the second time that Sean has had a road shed next to him within 5 feet, didn't see it, and then the person goes back by and then finds it. So
I wanted to find a road trip the whole time, and like, I'm in the passenger seat the entire trip and searching. A lot of times I was getting distracted by looking for sign, but I was searching for antlers and I couldn't find one. We rode right past one. Mikey picked it up behind us, ride past another one, and Trev picks it up right behind me. And so I'm all butthurt about that. And we're like, screw it, let's go in the woods right here.
no, so that would actually been the third road shed that was found,
Yeah,
because
but-
the second one was the 2-point, and then we found. So then we had gone and turned around, and we come back up, and we're looking down this clear cut, like we're like, oh, that's good area right there. And I look down and I go, road shed, and he's like, are you kidding me, dude? That's number 3 road sheds in front of me. I'm like, all right, well, this happens. So we had gone in there, and it was great sign. I mean, the sign was phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like running up and down the rows. I'm through the cuts. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Like, good sign, but like, where's all the antlers?
Yeah, and we're like dying. Like, at this point in the week, it got really hot.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I mean, it's like 85 in the middle of the day, and it's not what you expect up there.
No, you left when it was going to be 28 up there.
The first 2 days was 26 the first night, 28 the second night, but it would be like 54 during the day, and then it took a turn for the worst. It's 60 at night, 85 during the day.
Yep,
you're
and
like,
that's welcome to Maine and enjoy the black flies.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
mosquitoes.
the mosquitoes.
Yep.
And then with the dog, it was so hard to run all day long, you know. We couldn't do that to her.
Right. So we had gone into this spot, and I'm running, and the radio comes on. He's like, bro, I just found one. And I'm like, you did? What is it? He's like, it's a drop tine shed. A drop tine? And I'm thinking maybe just like this little tiny kicker. I'm like, oh, cool. We got one with a little kicker on it. He's like, I got a 20-inch drop tine on it. And I'm like, 20-inch? And I'm thinking in my head, like, 20-inch, like, does it have like a fucking flyer off the back, 20 inches? I'm like, what? I'm like, cool, dude. Congrats, man. That's awesome. But, like, what went through your head when you came up on that thing?
Oh, dude, it was crazy. Like I said, it was so hot out, and like we're sweating and everything, and going through the nastiest terrain. Like, I didn't realize how like tall a moose stood off the ground. Like, I'd never seen one before in person, and the stuff that they're walking through. I mean, their belly probably starts where like my head starts. So like the stuff they're walking through, they're just going over top of that like it's nothing, and it's really like a jungle down below where we're walking through. And I come around the bend and I see like a base through the brush, and I couldn't believe it because we'd been sweating, dying, wasn't finding anything all day, and I finally see an antler. I'm like, oh my gosh, finally an antler! And I come around the bend and I'm like, what the hell is sticking off the back of that thing, dude? Like, I couldn't believe it. And yeah, it was a huge, like, it looks like a big elbow coming off the back, and it's about like 20 inches long. I was like, what in the world? So of course we're looking all around trying to find the other side and everything, and cannot find the other side. So we ended up leaving the spot because we got too hot. Dog had to go and everything. So we left, and ended up going back the next day. Took Trev and Ruby back in there, searched again, and none of us could find it. I don't know what we searched in around that area for an hour before we split away from that zone. And couldn't find it. Well, a couple hours later, I went back and was luckily able to find the other side, but it was only 240 feet away, and it took us every bit of 6 hours to find it. That just tells you how thick it is in those areas.
It's nuts in there, dude. Because I was close to it.
Oh yeah, I mean, even
I
with
was
the dog,
super close to it.
Yeah, even with the dog, you were within a couple 100 feet. I mean, I don't know exactly, but you were easily within 100 feet of it to 200 feet.
I don't know how it's possible that I didn't find it.
No, especially with a dog, and everybody thinks that with a dog, you're gonna find all the sheds, but that's just not the case. You know, every once in a while, the dogs do miss them too.
And that's one thing that goes to show too. Like a lot of guys are like, the dog. You have a dog. Like we don't go into an area because there was somebody in there with a dog. There was a dog print in there, and you're like, whoa, hold on, time out. Like,
yeah,
my dog's good, but it's not that good.
Well, even so, your buddy Rich is a great shed hunter with a great dog who everybody looks up to that dog on social media that he's a great shed dog, and he is. Same with his buddy Ryan. They got great shed dogs, and they were in an area and they told us, they said, hey, we found a couple browns in here. Why don't you guys go ahead and check and see if you couldn't find any of our scraps. They didn't match anything up. So I really wanted a brown, and we went back in there, and within 10 minutes, I found my first brown 7-pounder. So you just never know. Nobody's ever going to find all of them. It's just impossible. You can't do it.
No, I think that'd be almost like bird hunting with a bird dog, where you walk by and all of a sudden the guy's dog behind you locks on point. It's like, my dog was right there. It's all scent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Just the
I
way
would
that
definitely
they
go in a spot where a dog was. It wouldn't hurt my feelings any.
Scent and wind.
Yep.
Yeah.
If that
It's
wind's not
everything.
going in the right direction.
They could be 2 feet from it, walk right by.
Well, I mean, like Turtle. So Rich's dog Turtle, he's like, because everybody
in that same spot. The video is in that same spot.
And he rants and raves. Everyone's like, "Oh, you have the best shed dog ever," and then he jokes about it because it's funny, right? And he's like, "Yeah, the best shed dog ever. Just walks right by this shed, and he like literally walks it until he gets
10-pound brown, walks within a couple feet of it,
until he
notice
catches
it.
that wind, man."
Yep, and that's what it's all about. Well, Ethan and I bird hunt and pheasant. We see it all the time where my dog will lock on point and his dog was right there. Then all of a sudden you can watch the dog come back and say, "What are you doing?" Then pick that scent up and lock on solid. It's pretty cool to watch happen.
It is, and sometimes, especially with the fast dogs, you watch a fast dog working, and literally they will be moving so fast, and literally they'll catch the scent, and they'll literally stop in midair and turn,
Almost fall over,
and lock up on point or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
It's incredible to watch.
It is.
It really, honestly is. But I mean, it's one thing. Like you just, no matter what, if there's a dog or people or whatever, just get in there and do it. Like, it's not gonna stop you from bird hunting. It's not gonna stop you from shed hunting.
Right, you can't let it
Exactly.
discourage you and turn you away because you never know what you're going to find. I mean, you just never know. Somebody could have been in the spot where we found the drop tine shed. We don't know. I mean, you just never know. And it was a year-old shed. I'm sure somebody walked in there at some point.
Oh, of course, but they might not think the same as us because everybody's mind is different. Like that's one thing with shed hunting. Like your mind might be different of like where you think that a shed might be or what track you want to walk on or whatever the case may be. Like when I had shed hunting with Martic in one spot, like he was thinking going up here and I'm thinking here. So we're like walking different areas. Not everybody thinks the same. So you have a different place.
Even you walking the same trails though, because I mean, like I said, I looked for the other side of the drop tine for 2 hours after I found it. I'm sure I was within 100 feet of it that day as well. I mean, but I couldn't find it. And it just takes, walking down the same trails and the way the sunlight is, the way the shadows are, if it's cloudy, if it's rainy. I mean, there's so many variables that can happen that can change the way that you look at things as well.
And
so the rule of thumb is a shed is exactly where you find it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, really, there is no rhyme
true.
or reason why it's there.
No, because the shed, and that's one thing. I mean, you bring up a valid point. A lot of the times, like all these guys will be in these ideal areas where sheds are.
Yeah.
And I'll get outside of that realm, and I'll go to, like in the thick woods or the what are they called? The alders.
Yep.
And you go in the alders, and I'll shed hunt in there, and I'll find sheds in there. Those guys aren't there. Those moose need to move from point A to point B.
No matter what.
And they might drop them. They don't know when they're going to drop them. It's same with whitetails.
Exactly. You read where people are saying, check on the other side of the brook where a deer jumps over, the antler will fall off. I'm not that lucky.
No.
I'm just going to shoot mine and cut them off.
Yeah, exactly. That's how Martic is too. He's like, I'll take them attached to
Yeah,
the head.
exactly.
Right?
Same here. Them are mine.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to find and stuff, and they say, oh, they're participation trophies and whatever else, but hey, I'll take a participation trophy any day.
I agree. I mean, look at my age, and I've only found like 2 shed deer antlers my whole life. And I've spent all my life in the woods. Either I'm not looking, which I probably don't, because I'm usually deer hunting,
Right.
at that time. But even when I'm rabbit hunting and so forth, it's just rare to find. So I say you guys going out and doing it, that's pretty cool. It
What
really
do you
is.
have for a shed season? It goes from snow to turkey season.
Well, we have 9 months of winter and 3 months of rough sledding.
Right. The snow melted, turkey season.
Yeah, July 4th and then winter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that, like, we were literally up there. It's 81 degrees. I remember it. We're driving down the track. There's 3 feet of snow on one side, nothing on the other side. You go in the woods, now it's over your head, and you're like, bro, it's 80 degrees. When we left on Friday, that Friday was 91 degrees in the truck.
That's crazy.
We're sitting in the thing, and I'm like, hey, let's stay one more night. We'll get up in the morning, pack all the gear, and let's get out of here, right? We ate lunch. We came back. We ate lunch. It's hot. It's like 80-something degrees. And I'm sitting in the tent because I'm like, it's too hot outside. I said, I'm going to sit inside the tent. I'm laying in the tent, and I look at
It's
Sean.
even
and I go,
hotter in the
Yeah.
tent.
And I says, Sean, we're out of here, bro. And he's like, what do you mean? I says, we're going home. I says, this is enough. What are we going to do? Sit here and stare at each other for the next 8 hours? Because don't get dark until 9. It's noon. We're going to stare at each other. It's hot as hell. It's miserable. We ain't shed hunting tomorrow.
You can't sit outside because you burn up and the flies will eat you.
Yep.
And the mosquitoes, yeah, they're really bad.
Dude,
Yep.
the mosquitoes up there.
It's the main state bird, isn't it?
It is.
It's got to be. Those things are like pterodactyls,
I'm
bro.
telling you better be ready.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. The swamp. But no, it's fun, dude. The shed hunting thing is different. It's something that a lot of people don't do. We just have, it's our annual trip. We get to go do it. We visit Mark. We go up there. We hang out. I mean, me and Sean came home with 25.
That's cool.
You know, it's whatever. I don't care. I don't care if I'm finding chalks. I'd like to find browns. Year-olds, I don't care. Chalks, I don't care.
They're all cool.
I mean, it's fun to find them.
Yeah.
And you're like,
And just to see it, I mean, they're just, even the old ones, just to see that, the antler in general, and that, yeah, just everything about it's really cool.
It definitely, like, I found one in one of the cuttings. Well, actually, Ruby found it. She whooped my ass this year, but which is good that it's getting to that point. But I come around the corner, and she's just wagging her tail. That's what she does. She stands over it, she wags her tail, and she freaks out if it's too big and she can't carry it. She's just like, Dad, look what I got. Dad, look what I got. And I come around the corner, so I walk up over, dude. That one had to have been there for 10 years. I'm not even kidding. It was no paddle. It's like this big, like, starfish-looking thing on the top, like, curled. It was just badass old one. It was cool. And I'm like, how long has it been there? And imagine how many people shed hunt, how many people go in there, and then you find an old one, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see it, right? I mean,
Right,
like,
yeah.
whatever. So
And like I said, there's people that I'm sure they shed hunt all the way until winter again up there constantly because it's an income for them. And they're hiring the tourists and stuff. You know, the tourists are hiring the guides, I guess, to bring them in and look for sheds. But I bet they do. I bet they stay right up in there. So to find an antler like you did with a drop tine that's not this year's, that's been walked by, I mean, there's a lot of people up in there looking for that. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty cool.
Right.
yeah, and you bring up another valid point. Honestly, Mark, a lot of people are doing this for a living. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of money up there.
Nope.
And they literally, I mean, $20 a pound brown, $25. I mean, $20 to $25 brown.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
One antler is $250, roughly $200 to $250. That's, and if you find 10 antlers in a day, and if you know where you're going and you can find the browns, that's good money. Again, it's going to dry up, but it's a good replacement income when, like you said, they can't log. They can't drive the trucks on the road in there to get any lumber out of there. Almost all our mills are closed anyways. So, yeah, it's a good supplement income until you can get a chance to do something different.
And it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good exercise. You're up there, you're learning the woods. You're really, dude, not just a shed hunt, but to sit out by the fire at night. I mean, you've been up there up north. You live up there. We got to see it. It's amazing. The stars, it's incredible.
That
up there.
is.
There's
yeah.
no light
Once
pollution.
you get away from the light, yep.
It's nuts, man. I mean,
Yeah,
like
it's so quiet.
every constellation you could ever think of, you can see up there. I mean, you want to talk about the things that we enjoy and what drives us outdoors. That's one of the things. I mean, the enjoyment of being up there and being at the pretty much the top of the world and seeing all that is incredible.
Yeah, and even being without service for the whole week, I mean, it's nice to, get away from everything and just,
Unplug.
be by yourself and get to be with buddies and spend time and talk and just share stories without having to be distracted by social media and all the other stuff that's going on in the world,
It sucks being away from it,
Yeah.
though.
I was going to say, Jared probably got the shakes because I know how he loves that social.
Like I said, I got a phone call from him. Hey, Mark.
You'd be driving along and you just. How many times did we get phone calls when we had service?
Yeah, that was wild. It's like, we don't have any service, and all of a sudden we get service, and we're getting a phone call all of a sudden, so we must have service.
It happens. I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
So Martic, while we were away, you knocked one down.
No. You were back in town.
Was I back in
You were
town?
sleeping.
Oh,
Sean was up.
Sean was up because we were supposed to
You were
hunt.
supposed to.
We were actually going to hunt together.
Yeah. No.
Well, we talked about it.
Yeah.
We talked about it on the ride home.
You guys were coming back Friday afternoon, I think.
Yeah, it was like midday we left because we ended up leaving early, like we said.
It was like noon, 1 o'clock when we left.
Yeah.
Right. So by the time you got back into service, you called me and we started, discussing plans for Saturday. And originally we were all three of us, me, Trev, Sean, we were going to get together and hunt. But the more we thought about it, we thought, let's split up. Sean really wanted his Connecticut bird, which I don't blame him. I wanted another bird. There's no sense of us hunting together. Let's split up, cover more ground. Let's knock some birds down. So Trev's like, what's your plan in the morning? I was like, honestly, I was thinking about sliding back into that spot where Trev had killed the double with me 2 weeks prior.
Right.
And it's Trev's spot. I wouldn't know about it if it wasn't for him. So, I'm pretty much asking for permission. And Trev's
public
like,
land, bro.
Yeah, but I wouldn't do that to you.
No, I know.
So Trev's like, absolutely, dude. Like, get in there, kill that thing. This is one of those spots where it's not a short drive from my house. It's a pretty long walk. It's not something you can just pop into and roost a bird. Like, so it's 2 weeks in a day. I'm pretty much going in blind. So I pretty much knew Trev was still sleeping because I Snapchatted him at 3:10 in the morning. And it's like 4:45 and he hadn't opened it yet. And that's not like Trev. Trev doesn't miss anything on that. So I left my house at 3:10. And also, this is the same day as Cody's wedding. And I really, really wanted to kill a bird.
Well, we had mentioned that actually on episode 140. Yeah, 140.
Yeah. So I had a wedding to go to this day, which I know it wasn't really going to affect it. I just like busting his balls. So I'm like, I really want to kill a bird, the day of his wedding.
There's a lot of memes about that.
Yeah. Hell yeah. There's more coming. So I get up. I leave the house at 3:10, drive down there, pull in the parking lot about 4, walk into the spot where Trev had taught me to, stop and locate from there. So it's like 4:45. I hit the owl call, my new owl call. Recently learned how to do that. So nothing. So I give it 5 to 10 minutes, still nothing. So I'm like, all right, relax. This happened last time when I was with Trev, so I knew where to make my next move. Got up on top of the hill to the spot where we had heard him gobble that the last time. So I get up there, still nothing. Now I'm starting to think. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. I got up at this early to drive this far to walk in here I'm not even to hear a bird. So I'm like, and this isn't an easy place to get in and out of it. You really can't just back out and shoot down the road to another spot. Like, you're pretty much committed to this area. So, what did I do? I started walking down the hill kind of towards where we ended up finishing that hunt. And it was kind of cool because I had never been in there before. So, where the birds that Trev had killed in that double, where they had crossed the wall, I had never seen it in person. So now I got a chance to kind of go over there, see the terrain, kind of start scouting a little bit to see why the birds came, where they came, why they crossed the wall there and whatever. So I'm standing on the property line, looking into private. I had let out a couple turkey calls, nothing. And it's pretty open over there. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just back off this wall like 50 yards. I'm going to sit down, do the usual, drink some coffee, play on TikTok, whatever. And I'm sitting there maybe 5 minutes. I text Cody, and I think it was 5:36 in the morning. And I text Cody, and I was like, this is bullshit. I should have went golfing instead, haha. So I'm sitting there, and the first gobble I heard, I didn't really realize. You ever hear like a distant woodpecker knocking on a tree?
And you think
is
it's
that a gobble?
Yep.
And I thought it was a woodpecker. I didn't pay it no mind. And then the second time I was like, that was a gobble. So set the phone down, put the gloves on, put the face mask on, started working the bird, and it was just your classic 2-year-old, man. He came in just hammering and hammering.
And it's late season to add
and
with it.
hammering and
Yeah,
hammering.
he was probably lonely.
Triple gobbling, everything. So
He was as lonely as Martic was.
yeah. Yeah. So, if you remember Trev's story from the double, there was that little low spot. We call it a swamp. It was a little wet spot. So, when Trev killed his double, we were on the...
Old people have wet spots too.
Yeah. they got to check them. So, help me out with this one. When you killed the double, you were on the north side of the swamp?
Correct.
And the birds crossed...
No, I'm on the south side of it. They come from the north.
So, we were on the south side of the swamp. The birds came over the wall on the north side of the swamp, so we had that swamp in between us. So on this day, I'm on the other side of the swamp. So I'm like, perfect.
So now you're on the north side.
I'm
of
like
it.
50 yards from where you killed the second bird. And I'm like, this is perfect. I'm on the right side of the swamp. Money. The bird hops the wall. He's on the other side of the swamp. I was like, you got to be kidding me. How does this happen, But because I had just been 50 yards ahead of me where the wall is, I learned that the swamp actually ends before the property line. And I'm like, hopefully he just kind of, hugs that little boundary between the wall and the swamp. And that's exactly what he did, and he stepped out.
That's one good thing about turkeys. They want to come head on. No matter, sometimes you get your mature birds, obviously, that'll circle back around you or whatever the case may be. But straight on. They want to walk directly at the hen.
Call, yeah.
100%. So you can kind of manipulate them. So I get what you're saying, like, oh crap, he's going to circle back, now he's going to hit the swamp or whatever, but you kind of know in your mind there's a dry spot, so he's now going to cut back from the south to the north and come in and come directly at you because you're facing to the east.
Right.
Yeah.
But the way it worked out, so I'm on the edge of the swamp, right on the edge. So I'm facing east, the swamp's running east-west, the property line's running north-south. So he actually stepped out broadside because he had to come around the edge of the swamp
Yep.
to get to me. And I was going to play the game with him, try to get him real close. And that, you know how it is in there. The timber's so open when you get away from that swamp. When he made that corner, he picked his head up. He was looking for the hen, and I know what's behind me. He can see 150 yards. And I'm like, you know what? He's going to start realizing what he's looking for is not here. I said, let's just end this game right now. And, I pulled the trigger, and typical, he didn't go nowhere. He just rolled right over there. So I text Trev, who he was still sleeping. I said, you got your cigar ready? And then I think I ended up getting a hold of Sean.
Yeah,
Sean's like, the truck's still loaded up.
Yeah, I was awake, but we ended up realizing that I couldn't get my license.
Oh, that's right, too, yeah.
Yeah, because I had to call.
Connecticut's a funky state when it comes to that.
I had to call the licensing office and everything, and they weren't open until Monday, so we were kind of screwed on my morning hunt either way. But we just took the morning to rest anyway. And
you guys
recoup from the
needed it,
drive.
yeah.
You figure we didn't get in until almost 11 o'clock that night.
Right.
And then to get up at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it was sun up right now is stupid early, we learned today.
Yeah, we didn't even really know where to start either. Yeah, we were.
Yeah,
we've
like,
been
what
away
are we
for
going
a
to do?
week,
Right, yeah. And that's one of the things, every year I do that. Come home and everything's grown in. And you've scouted these birds in all these areas, all these bird feeders, and you're like, well, where are they,
Well, I'll tell you what, just in those 2 weeks, it's a different world in there from when we were in there last.
I can only imagine.
It's a different world, yeah.
Could only imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And what are you going to do? And one of the games that you have to play with some of them birds is if you don't have a decoy, which sometimes good, sometimes bad, especially later in the year, I don't like running too many decoys or a decoy at all because what happens is if they've gotten their ass kicked or, they've now seen, how many times has a bird got called in and seen a foam decoy and is like, what is that? That thing doesn't move. That thing doesn't, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that potentially could be wrong. Sometimes it's money. They run in on it and they do what they need to do, but sometimes they don't. So hunting without a decoy, especially they can see long distance, I get why you made that shot. There's nothing else you can do.
I'm not good enough to play the game. You know what I mean? Like, take the first good shot you got, and I would have just screwed it up, or who knows what the bird would have done. It's hard to say, but when you shot your double, there was 3 longbeards, and where he was and where he came, I'm willing to bet it was that third bird. So he's been.
You think so?
He let two.
Yeah.
He already had two of his buddies shot right in front of him in the same spot.
And you're on public. Who knows who else has
Right.
been in there messing
Right.
with them? It's a toss up.
Yeah.
This time of year, it's definitely a toss up. You got to make that shot when you can make it.
Right.
I mean, in our instance, because Sean had actually shot his bird on Monday, and you just use that terrain to your advantage. You didn't have a terrain to use.
I used that edge of that swamp. You know
Right.
what I mean? And I had the stone wall. The east, I had the stone wall. And to the north, I had the swamp. So I thought he was going to come over the wall. And by the time he came over the wall, it's too late for him. But he just happened to come. You know, they're turkeys. They do whatever they want to do. But, you know.
We all know that.
But that's a key. That's what I'm learning is you always want to have some kind of something to just block their line of sight. A stone wall, a hill, a thick spot, something so they can't see, say at 60 yards, 50 yards, and then by the time they break that barrier, like come over the wall and can actually see what they're looking for, they're already in range and you already got a beat on them.
So that's a
Yeah, you don't give 'em a
picture-perfect
chance,
scenario.
yeah.
Right.
That's a picture-perfect scenario where what happened with Sean, because we had gone into a piece of public. First off, the morning, we ended up, and this is where it's a negative too, because when you're using that to your advantage, so we get into a spot, we strike up a bird, we decide we have to now go a little bit further because I know that there's a clear cut. Now we can play the game. So I said, all right, we're going to get into this clearing. So we get up into that clearing. I had struck a bird on the way up. Said, let's get to that clearing. We'll get in that clearing. Now we can play the game. I start calling 3, 4, 5 sequences. Nothing back, nothing back, nothing back. And I look at Sean and I'm like, dude, can he not hear me? Maybe he's over the knoll. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he can't hear me. I don't know.
He heard us on our way up the hill, but we had gone a little bit farther, so maybe he couldn't hear us through the foliage and the leaves. I mean, who knows? But he wasn't responding. So
I was like, well, what I got to do now is I got to get back over into that bubble and now try and strike him up again. Go over the knoll and start working down. There he is. He's standing right there. He came in silent on us. Typical late season move anyways,
Right.
or one that's where he's not the aggressor in the situation. So now he's afraid to make that noise to then the aggressive, more mature bird is going to beat him up. You know what I'm saying? So we blew that hunt. That hunt went to shit in a handbasket pretty quick. Moved on to the second one. There was nothing on that one, right?
nothing there. Yeah.
And then the third one is when it got good. And we played that. So we ended up walking in there, got on the first knoll. No, we didn't get nothing to
nothing
gobble.
on the first knoll. About another 100, 200 yards up. Struck one up.
But it was off.
Yeah, same thing like you said. I mean, barely in ear distance, and you could barely hear the gobble.
I didn't even hear it at first. It was that far. Literally, like barely could hear it. Sean's like, did you hear that one? And I'm like, no, I didn't. Hit the call. All right, now I got him. So, and we're like, all right. Sean at first was like, well, we set up right here. And I was like, no, hold on. We got to back up 20 yards. Because now we're at the top of the knoll, and we're trying to shoot the sound down into the valley. We got to back up 20 yards. Now let's put the hill in our face. Now when he pops over, he's at 15 yards. He's done. He's dead to rights. If we can get him to come over that knoll, he's done. I mean, he can't see us. And with the hills and the valleys, it's wide open. So now he can get on the next knoll up, see that there's nothing there. Now he's, you know what I'm saying? Now you're starting to get a little bit crazy. So we set back 20 yards.
Dude, every time he touched the call, it was just, he lit it up every single time. I mean, over 100
double
gobbles.
gobbling, 3 triple gobbling, like things. And he's like, like he was like, he was making the funniest noises. He's like, he's thinking it's a Jake. I kind of thought it was a Jake at one point. Like he gobbled. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like,
Yeah, it was really weird. It was different.
I've never heard gobbles like that, honestly. So he's taking his time, and he's like, he'll come, he'll gobble, he'll strut. I mean, this is in my mind. I'm thinking, he's like strutting, stopping. Then you call, and you come a little bit closer, stop, strut, kind of worked his way in. But he's just, dude, howling at the moon. Like you wouldn't call, and he, ow, ow, ow. You're like, all right, bro, hold on a second, and then you get him to come, and then he come up. He was close, and I'm like, dude, how much closer is he gonna get before we can't? Because I can't see him. I'm set back about 7 yards, like
off my left
7.
shoulder, yeah. Back like diagonal off my left shoulder, and we're sitting, like you said, like 20 yards off the backside of the hill. So as soon as he comes over the hill, he's 20 yards or less. And I'm sitting there, and he gobbles one last time right over the ridge, and I can tell at this point right where he's going to pop out at. And now I can see his fan coming over the hill. He's strutting, and I can see a full fan. I'm like, doesn't look like a Jake to me. But the one thing that was really weird about this bird is he had, like, on either side of his tail fan, there was, like, holes in his feathers. Like, there was, like, missing pieces of feather and everything. And anyway, he comes out of strut, and he's 18, 20 yards. And I was like, yeah, I've had enough. I ain't going to let you have any more chance of that. But he was looking for the hen, and Trev was back behind me. The only thing unfortunate is I didn't know he was behind a tree, and Trev couldn't see him. So
I never saw him until I didn't even know he was going to shoot. Just boom, and then he comes out, and then I'm like, it was weird when he had shot.
Yeah, it was really weird. I pulled the trigger, and the bird jumped straight up in the air. And there's no way I missed him. But he jumps straight up in the air, and he hits the ground, and he just hunches up real quick. And Trev's like, shoot him again. So I'm not even watching the bird at this point. I'm shuffling around trying to get another shell because I'm shooting a single shot. And I'm reloading the gun, and Trev's like, he's dead. And I look up, and the bird's dead on the ground.
Do you know how helpless I felt, though? I didn't have a gun. I'm like, the bird's like doing weird things, and you're like,
Well, go get him.
yeah. I didn't know. I'm like,
Go kick his ass.
well, he starts running up, and he ends up
Trev's
grabbing
not
him.
really built for speed.
I tried all that. I tried that in the first day. I said, no more. Turkey season, no more. I learned my lesson.
Yeah, but I really thought it was a Jake, just like you said, because it was the weirdest gobbles ever. And I run up on the bird, and I grab his leg, and yeah, he had some needles on him, I think like 1.25 inches and like a 9-inch beard. But it was a little scraggly beard, but it was a nice bird. And really weird, he only weighed, 16 pounds?
Yeah, almost not even. He was like 15.96.
That's wild.
He had an injury to him.
Yeah, he did have like some around his like shoulder area. He was injured. I don't know if he had a broken wing or what was up, but yeah, he was definitely messed up.
And his feathers were all weird, scraggly beard. I don't know. It was weird.
Did he get shot at or shot?
That's what I had thought, but I don't
Could
know.
have, but like there was no damage to the breast. You know, it was just up near like the shoulder area. I don't know what was wrong. Like there was definitely some sort of infection though, because it was all like yellow and pussy and green. Because we cut the wings out because we were making some wing bone calls out of the wings, and where I cut the joint at the shoulder, it was all like green and pussy up in there. So I don't know.
Ew. Ugh.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
No.
I wouldn't eat it.
No.
But it goes to show how resilient they are, though. I
Well,
mean,
just, turkeys, deer, all that stuff. Wild animals just amaze you anytime you make a bad shot, they'll make you pay for it. They just disappear. Like my turkey this year. I said, head on, 37 yards, pow, on his face, unzip the blind, run out, gone. That's insane. It doesn't even make sense with that's a 3-inch mag at him with TSS. Weird. But they're tough. You make a mistake and they'll make you pay.
every single time.
Yep, deer, turkey, anything, partridge. It doesn't matter what you're shooting at.
Did yours shake it off?
He did a face plant. I mean, I hit him and he went, like you said, it blew him backwards and he kind of jumped up and then he landed on his face and he was just flapping his wings on the ground like the death dance. So I unzipped the blind. I figured I'm good to go. So I went running out of the blind and he's not there. There's 3 of them running off, there was 2 hens. So I'm like, well, see ya.
Wow.
Insane.
What are you gonna do?
Nothing.
Right, you don't want to hit a hen. Yeah.
Nope. So I tracked into the woods the best I could to try and catch up with him. And of course, turkeys are a little faster on their feet than my fat body. So
Right.
he outran me. I looked for blood, everything. Nothing. I'm sure he took a fair amount of lead. Well, of that TSS, and he's probably dead now, unfortunately. But it becomes the cycle of life. Something else will eat him.
Just the way that it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a discussion about this, and I'll bring this up because I think it's a good conversation. Might be right, might be wrong. I don't know, but it's a discussion that I've had, and it's a thought, right? You shot your bird. You know that it had died. I shot my bird. You know that it died. Like a deer, you wound a deer. You know it dies, but you can't find it. Do you punch that tag?
If you're duck hunting, you do.
Right. Well, this is the conversation. And
That's
there's
what we
no
were
right
talking-
answer.
yeah.
There's
No,
no right or wrong answer on this.
No, I agree. And I don't know. That's an odd one. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem saying, yeah, I took a miserable shot. I'd punch a tag for it.
I would
Whatever.
too.
I don't have a problem
That's
with
the
that.
right thing to do in a lot of situations. I mean, especially in somewhere where you're allowed 5 birds. if you're wounding, let's say you're
just a
let's say
miserable shot.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's say you wound 2 of them and then you go kill 5 other ones. I mean, now you've potentially killed 7.
Yeah, you can clean an
So,
area
like,
out real quick.
You know, something like that. I mean, I feel like you should be more pay attention to what
Yeah.
you're doing a little bit better. And maybe if you do wound a bird, maybe that one should count towards it. But somewhere like where I was hunting in Delaware, where you're allowed 1 turkey, if something goes wrong with your 1 bird, I mean, there's a lot of birds down there, but they only allow you to kill
Right.
1.
Exactly.
If something goes wrong and you don't find your 1 bird and now you check that one off your list, well, now you don't even get a turkey for the year.
Oh, no, you don't. That's a clean miss.
Yeah. but there's no wrong. I mean,
Right.
it is what it is. I personally, in the back of my mind, I keep it in my mind.
Yep.
If I shoot and I hit one and I know that it's going to die, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, I'm only going to shoot 4 this year. I mean, I'm giving 5.
Yeah, that's a pile of birds.
You know, and it's because you can
decimate an area.
And I shouldn't be shooting 5 to begin with when you're given 5. I mean, I try not to. Am I really, another controversial aspect of it is I get 5 tags, but I brought you hunting and shot 1 in one of the areas. We went and hunted in one of the areas. We're going to go hunt in one of the areas. All 3 of you, we're going to go to those same areas.
Yeah, we all have that many tags. That's
Correct.
Crazy.
So, I mean, it's
That's
one of those
that's
things.
20 birds you could clean out of this area. That's insane.
It's nuts, and it really hurts on it. So in the back of my mind, if I've already shot in 2 in state, right? 1, 2, yeah, I only shot the double. 3?
The bow.
Oh, I shot 1 with the bow. So for me, then I have 2 tags left. If I don't fill those 2 tags, I'm okay with it. I technically shot and killed 1, and it went on its way, and I'm fine with it. If I shoot 1 and I get an opportunity, then so be it. But I'm not going to push for that 5. I'm just going to leave it alone.
That
you know
is-
what I'm saying?
That is nuts. Like I said, even in Maine, you know how many birds we have.
Yeah.
And we get 2 tags. And I'm hoping that they don't increase it. If you really enjoy turkey hunting, because if they do what they're doing to you, 5 tags,
Yeah.
that will start getting more people out there, because we don't really have a lot of turkey hunters. They will decimate it.
And and Martic can contest for this. They wanted that for participation.
Yeah, for the money.
For the
They want
money.
they want you to buy the license.
But my whole thing on that is exactly this. You came down out of state. You came out of state. Will came here out of state. They make it so hard for you all to get licenses,
Yeah,
but
it's
they
pretty
want
crazy.
participation.
Yep.
And then they give you a 3-day license, and then you have to get the resident game tag. So really, what they should do is get rid of, if they want participation and money, and it's all about the money, and that's what it is, make you guys buy your licenses and the tag.
Right. Why make you, why allow you to kill more? If they want participation in 5 years, there's going to be no participation because there's going to be no birds to shoot.
Correct.
Yep.
So where's the participation going to be coming from?
And we're
I
already
agree.
starting to see that. I mean, how many times have you seen that in
So
spots?
bad.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's one of the good things that I've heard this year, and thankfully, guys are seeing big clutches, 10, 15.
That's what I'm seeing this year up home as well. It's just insane. I mean, I sent you the pictures. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, there's 20 hens and like 8 or 9 toms in one field. It's like, holy crap. And that's constantly. So that's pretty good. And like I said, right now, it's almost any field you want, for the most part, you can call in a turkey. That's great.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's really nice.
And
to
only
see
kill
it.
2 birds.
And 2 birds, which I'm good with. And then in the
2 is
fall,
fine.
this is where, like you said, participation and like Sean was saying, it's foolish. Last year I think it was you could shoot 4 or 5 in the fall, and they didn't have us tag them. Well, so how did you keep track of anything? That makes no sense at all. So you literally could go out, shoot 4 birds, and you didn't have to. You're done. But you didn't tag them or register them anywhere. That makes no sense for the state could ever follow how many birds were harvested at the end of the year. And then you're going to start a brand new season with go ahead and shoot 2, and then at the end of the season, don't worry about tagging them. I could see during COVID, they didn't have us tag them because nobody was open. But that's how it was last year. That's foolish.
But what would be the point of that when it's conservation study?
None. And
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, Ethan had harvested some birds, and I gave him hell. I'm like, yeah, you're going to have to register that. And he goes, no, they're not having us register them. And so I looked into it, and I'm like, oh, you're wrong. You got to register them, tag them, and so forth.
Right.
No, the state is just, that just makes no sense. You have no way of knowing what happened last fall in Maine. None.
And the Eastern Seaboard's numbers are down right now.
Yeah, so you can tag your bird, but you know, in the in the spring, and then in the fall it's.
Has Connecticut put their numbers out yet?
I don't think so.
I don't think they put out last year either.
I don't know. I don't want to see him, to be honest with you.
Well, hopefully, like you said, the big clutches will continue. Like I said, it's been a lot of fun for me. I mean, just a few times I've gone out, every time I've gotten hit, with something like, again, like the Ridge Runner. I was using the outdoor drive Ridge Runner on that first big tom that snuck by my left that I didn't get. And then when I was in the field, I was, quote unquote, playing with my mouth calls. I suck at it, but at least I posted the video.
Licking that latex.
I'm ripping on the latex. And I mean, I'm not good at it at all. But what was funny is, as shitty as I was with it, I've got 4 jakes in front of me just gobbling, just striking off. And I'm like, this is insane. I mean, evidently I do sound better than I thought. But then I noticed if a crow, they'd do it. I think if you honked the horn on a truck, they would gobble. So I can't give myself a bunch of credit, but it was fun. And so, like, so with those numbers up like that, and again, you're down here and you're seeing the birds. I mean, obviously, we're seeing them posted online. You're doing good. I mean, you got the new line that we did, the little prototype. I bet you. I think it's going to be a lot of fun if this clutch stays and people start backing out and don't do what you said, shoot 5 birds.
See, if, I'm okay with the 5 birds, right? I mean, we're not going to be able to change that, right?
No, I mean, your chances of everybody getting 5 are pretty slim. There's not guys who are going to hammer it that hard.
There's a handful of us that are.
that I don't get is, across the country, a lot of states went down with their limit. I know Georgia, Alabama, a lot of states
did. Ohio dropped from 2 to 1 this year.
Everybody went from 2 to 1, 3 to 2. We went to 5. We've
been on 5 for 3-4 years now.
We've done the complete opposite of every other state.
Okay, you don't want to change the 5, and it's one thing that we probably can't change. But one thing that we do need to change is 1 bird a day, so that at least they have to work
in the fall.
for
It was you could have 4, but only 2 a day.
Okay,
So which is kind of cool. But same thing if you want to change it down here is don't shoot 5 jakes. I mean, that's next year's harvest. You're allowed 1 tom, 1 jake, or let's say 2 toms, 2 jakes, something like that, where you don't allow these guys to kill off next year's birds.
Yeah,
Because you do see that posted a lot where I'm fine with, again, anything as a trophy. I'm good with that. But when you literally are going to post, I shot all 3 of these jakes or 4 jakes, with 2 shots, that's, come on now. I mean, I could have done the same thing. But
me and Maddie, the Saturday before I killed that last bird when you guys were up in Maine, me and Maddie could have killed 5 jakes. 100% between my gun and his gun, it would have been a bloodbath.
Yeah, 2 rounds.
No way these birds are leaving this field. We didn't even take the safety off the gun.
no, because they're not educated yet. They're very young birds. And like I said, again, watch my video on
They're
Noreaster game
stacked
calls
on
where
top of each other.
20 yards in front of me, 4 birds, and I don't know what I sounded like, kind of like a turkey. And they're just striking off, and I'm
You
laughing.
look like a turkey.
Yeah, I was actually, you could hear me laughing on the video. I'm like, you guys are stupid. But again, if I wanted to harvest one, okay, get you 1 bird, but stop. Don't keep killing the jakes off. Don't do it.
my thing is, listen, just like small deer. Whatever you want to shoot, I'm happy with. I'm
Absolutely.
totally happy with. If because that guy, that may be able to get out one Saturday, or
Absolutely.
he may be able to take out his kid, and that's the memory that he's gonna make. I'm all about it. You can shoot anything that makes you happy or anything that's legal. I am 110% behind it. And I've said this again, time and time again, is that if you're gonna shoot whatever you're gonna shoot, just it's like in the deer example. Don't be passing does just to shoot, or say you shot a buck and be like, oh, well, you're passing does. You just want to shoot something with antlers. That's fine. Just say that.
Yeah.
Don't say that you're just doing it because you need it for the meat. No, you passed 3 does and then now you're shooting a small buck. That's different. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't do that. Or don't shoot 3 jakes. Like, take your 1 jake.
Or trying to just justify it that you're shooting it because somebody else will. Like, just say you shot it because you wanted to shoot it.
Right.
There's no reason to say, oh, well, if it walked by somebody else, they would have shot it. Because guess what? That deer didn't get big because it didn't walk by anybody.
Right.
I'm sure it walked by other people that didn't shoot it. So occasionally you're going to get those times where they're not going to get shot. So everybody can do their part and help out,
My problem is that these guys are shooting 3 jakes in a day,
Yeah.
or they go and
4.
or they shoot 2 toms one day, and then 3 days later they shoot 2 more jakes, and it's like, bub, you shot your toms. Why are we going backwards and shooting jakes?
Yeah, that makes no
You're just
sense.
shooting things to shoot things
yeah,
now.
Now you're being a killer.
You already have meat in the freezer.
I saw one guy, 2 toms, 2 jakes, same property, same day.
Yeah, that's
And then he's going to complain next year that there's no meat there.
I can't find any birds going to hunt on your piece.
Right.
Yeah, because you killed them all.
I mean, you can kill whatever you want. Like,
Absolutely.
it is what it
you
is.
You have
but-
5 tags, kill them. But
Well, that's a problem. You can make the argument, you know, like say we're complaining about we're seeing a decline in population. You're seeing a decline in population. Well, this guy that shot 2 toms and 2 jakes in one day, he's not seeing a decline in population clearly because he's got all these birds on his property.
Yep.
By the time he sees it,
too
it's
late.
already too late.
Yeah, it is.
It's already too late.
Yeah, like that field where you see my video. There's those 4 jakes and the one big tom all the way across the field that I wanted, and there's no hens in that field. 0. That's odd. I think there's a hen nested on the island where the big tom was, but that's kind of odd that I'm not seeing the hens in that one field.
Yeah. Why does it do that?
I don't know. There's always been hens there before, but I don't know why there's an issue in that field where it's the first time I've seen it like that. I've always gone up there and had like a bunch of toms. Like a couple of years past, I had that double I did. There was 6 toms running at me, but there's always like 2 or 3 hens. That's very odd for that area. You'd think there'd be at least 5 or 6, 7 hens in there, but nope. No, it's all jakes. So again, like you said, you keep shooting those jakes, and those hens, those poor 4 or 5 hens, don't get bred. You're in big trouble.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the problems that we had in Maryland. Yeah. There'll be 3 toms and 9 hens.
That is an issue to try to hunt them now. Good luck.
I had a blast that hunt I told you about where we had those 5 jakes. Me and Maddie were hunting. There was 1 longbeard in there. There was 5 jakes, and there was probably like 4 hens. And we were running circles with them half the day. But it was fun because I almost made a connection where it's almost like hunting a target buck. You know, you're letting all these does pass. You're letting these younger bucks pass because you're after this one target buck. Well, we've got 7, 8 turkeys on this piece of property, and we're trying to get this one longbeard, not the jakes, not the hens, that one bird that's in the group, and trying to, you know, cut through all those other birds to get to
so you're
that
just having fun with them, like I was
bird.
doing. Who cares?
Right. You're trying to get one bird out of a group of birds because he's the only longbeard in there, you know.
And that's what makes it fun. Like I said, I didn't want the jake, so I'm hollering everything at them and that is fun. And you do learn. Like I said, when they went across, they started picking on the tom, and then they're chasing crows, and here they come again. So I get a chance to see how they're reacting to the call as I'm using the pot call, and then I stopped calling altogether when they got close to the decoys, which, like I said, was 20 yards, and they just stood there looking at the decoy, and then they'd pick their feathers. I'm like, well, that's strange. I mean, you want to see what their reaction is with the decoys. And I know I overcalled those birds so that if I go back in there, they're going to be like, that's the idiot in the blind. So
Yeah, but you learn that way.
yeah, and that was awesome. That's the same thing with me deer hunting, sitting there watching deer in the early days when I always hunted the bogs, is I'd watch a doe lay down with 2 lambs. One lamb would lay really close to her, and another one would be about 10 to 15 yards away. And if you watch him in your binoculars, it's the little buck. He every time I saw that, the little buck would always be further away from his mom than the little lamb that was a doe would lay right with her. And I saw that repeatedly. And again, you just learn things like that just by being
And
out.
the only way that you're going to learn those things is by being very selective.
Yeah, exactly, in passing.
Not
But again,
shooting
I was
every
feeding a
first
family of
single
7.
And that's, you know, it's actually a very valid point because a lot of people don't realize is what what you can get away with a deer, what things that deer do in woods, I mean, animals in general, what they do, because when they see the first deer, they shoot, and there's nothing wrong with this. We're just conversing about it, but you don't get to see that unless you're passing deer. When you
Exactly.
start passing deer, now you can see what you get away with. That movement that a doe may made when it was 20 yards from you, and you thought that she was going to bust you. She wasn't going to bust you. She was trying to scratch her ear, or
Yep.
she was going to.
Or the foot stamp.
Yeah.
You know, or all that weird stuff. Like I said, I was always donating my meat to a family of 7, and I couldn't shoot a 100-pound buck. I could, but they're going to eat that in like 2 meals. So I always looked for something that was 180 to 210, somewhere in there. So I was able to harvest some really big deer in my life by being extremely patient and freezing to death. But you're right. By me passing all those deer and watching the little ones and the does, I learned way more than I ever thought I could have, because I was the same way. If I saw a 6-pointer, I'm dumping him. I'm done. I'm out of here. I got my meat. That lasts me for the winter, but not with a big family like that where I was donating it. They needed the meat. So I would just stay put. And I passed a lot of deer, and I learned a ton.
And you learn about what those animals do. It's the same
It's
with turkey
amazing.
hunting.
Amazing
Yeah.
to watch does flag, which I never knew. Well, when they're in heat, they'll flap their tail and they'll push the little ones away. And you'll watch that a small buck may come out and she'll run off. And you watch the big buck. I can't get around at him because he's 300 yards away in the woods. He won't poke his head out into that bog. He knows better. And she just keep flagging. You wait till the end of the season when we're getting towards the end of the rut. He's like, screw it. And there's my chance. So I would wait, and I would wait for that big guy to make that mistake. Like you said, he didn't get big by being stupid. But that doe finally wore him down to where he'd poke his head out into that swale, and it's over. And again, learning on that, watching them push those little does, or watch them lay down and chew their cud. How many people get to see a deer sit there and just lay there and chew their cud for an hour? And I'm cooking a sandwich on my grill in my tree stand. I've got that little buddy heater. I gotta stay warm.
He's
dude.
in a box blind.
Yeah, no, I've got pictures of me cooking like on Thanksgiving Day. I'm up there in the blind. I'm cooking a ham and cheese sandwich right on top of that buddy heater, and the wind's blowing right at them. And all those deer will do is pick their head up and smell, and then put their head back down, and they'll just keep doing that. And the more rural you get into the area, like where I'm hunting now, you could smoke a cigarette. I've dropped my camera on the floor. There's houses all the way around me. They're used to hearing all of that. Like where you guys were, the further you get back into the woods, you can't even breathe. If you breathe through your nose, it's over.
Those deer have never even seen humans.
Exactly. They will bust you so quick if you're on them. They don't want to be around you. And again, learning all of that through the years. And again, it's pretty cool. I think
It actually makes you a better woodsman
Absolutely.
at that point.
Yep.
Because you're able to see what those deer do, what they react to certain things.
Travel times, travel paths. It's really neat.
It is. But you only learn that by watching that stuff instead of seeing what you can get away with. I mean, how many times and we've probably all done it. Is a doe comes by and you're gonna pass that doe and you stand up and you draw back and see how many times you can draw back. See what you can get away with because. I mean,
It's practice, basically.
Yeah, but every single deer is situational, too, though, because that next deer that you go to stand up and she's going to catch you off.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just, I did that as a kid. You just see, like, oh, I got you. And you just look at him in the scope and you're just like, never mind.
That's what I used to do with the tree stand.
How many
Look through the scope.
Snapchats did I send you last fall? That they're walking by and I'm like flipping them the bird, fake shooting them with my finger, because I'm just waiting for a buck, and like you almost get frustrated. Like, come on, let's go, get out of here.
I got a buddy of mine that he would, when they would walk underneath him, he'd spit on them.
Mm-hmm. So I like throwing little pieces of bark at them off the tree.
Yeah, I mean, who cares if that? Like you said, you just screw them with them.
Yeah.
But with me in those instances, deer hunt, I'd go in the dark, and I stayed in my tree stand till dark. It's a 45-minute walk to the tree stand, and my buddies would text me, "Come on out, we're going over here. We're going to hunt this property." I'm like, I'm not walking 45 minutes out of here, and I'm going to bust my trail all the way out. I've ruined it. So, but no, I'd go in the dark and then climb up in the tree, and I'd stay in that tree all day long until the sun went down, and listen to the coyotes and walk back out. And that's like you said, that's where you start having a lot of fun with those deer. I don't want that one. I don't want that one. And that's you learn a lot from squirrels, rabbits, everything.
And you can see how different animals react to those deer too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of that stuff. Oops, I almost kicked the thing. That would have been bad.
Especially with red squirrels busting you, like up home. Yeah, usually you try to do a mental telepathy with them. You tell them to shut up. I'm just going to shoot you because I'm just going to make you shut up. But they bust deer as much as they bust you. Mm-hmm. I can't count how many times I've been in my tree stand and had to swivel my head and go, holy crap, how big is that deer? And then realize it's a 6 or an 8 or whatever. But the squirrel busted him. The squirrel's pissed because he's under his tree.
Yep. Or how many times you heard the blue jay squawking? Mm-hmm. So you gotta look.
Yep.
You gotta look. A couple minutes later, here comes horns through the brush.
Yeah, because he's in the beech nuts.
Yep.
He's giving him a hard time.
They say that with bear hunting too, with the squirrels. The squirrels will give the bears away.
A lot of times, what I've noticed when a bear's about to step out, everything goes quiet. Maybe if they're coming, but right before a bear steps out to the bait, everything goes quiet.
Nothing makes a noise.
And they just step out like a ghost.
Just like humans. When humans are in the woods, it's dead silent when
Right.
something's coming. When it's off, then it's different, but when they're close.
Back to the squirrel thing, though. Something I noticed, maybe it's just me. I'm curious what you guys think. I find that early in the season, first couple sits in a tree, say it's like not a permanent set, but like a preset ladder stand or something. First sit, squirrel busts you. He comes over, he's barking at you, yapping at you, and you're like, come on, get out of here. Go away. After a couple sits, you become buddies. He
Yep,
stops.
mutual
He's
agreement.
like, all right, I know what's up. That's that cool.
Yeah.
You know, we're cool. You're my buddy. All right, and they leave you alone after the first couple sits.
No, I totally agree. I've got pictures. I won an award at a photograph shop in Bangor. You just enter the photograph. Anybody could enter it. I had a chickadee on my gun barrel, looking in my scope, and then I had him on my shooting rail because we'd put up a seed bell, and they'd fly up between your feet and the stand, and then they'd land on your hat. You could hear their feet slide down your hat. It was just a blast. And like I said, you just become friends with squirrels. Are the same way. By about the third or fourth set, you've seen him enough that you know he runs down there across that log back this way, then he comes back this way. He won't mess you. And I've had him go right down the tree behind me.
And he's seen you enough to know he's not really in
trying to eat
danger.
him.
Yep, we're cool. We're buddies. Yep.
Yeah,
I need to spend more time in that stand.
It doesn't work if you're running and gunning and mobile hunting from different trees. It doesn't really work out.
No. Except my stand. Once I go up in it, I don't leave it. I even have a little potty in my stand. If I have to go to the bathroom, I'm not coming down out of the stand. Not doing it. Because I know as soon as I climb down to the stand, there'll be a freaking 8-pointer or 10-pointer staring at me going, dumbass. Got out of the stand, didn't you? No, and my two big little blinds that I have, there's
bathrooms in it.
Yep. Yeah, it's just like a 3.5 gallon pail, whatever, one of the little porta potty things. Wrap everything up at the end of the day, hike it out with you. It doesn't bother them. But I'm not getting out of that stand. It's a hell of a climb down in one of them. It's probably 40 feet. So I don't want to climb down out of that. I'm getting too old for that. So now I have that ground blind where it's a piece of cake. That's a little house with a little, well, I showed you, it's got a propane stove in there.
Our all-day sits, we just piss out of the tree stand.
And the deer don't care.
Remember the day, but back in the day, you used to actually piss in a bottle
Oh
because
my
you
God,
thought it was going
yes.
to ruin the hunt.
Yeah.
And then now you're just like, let it fly. They don't care, man. How many times you pissed in a scrape and had a buck come through
And
that
you know
night?
that happened the same way you just said it. Somebody said, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to piss on that deer scrape.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've had enough. Because it was their target buck. They just couldn't catch him. And one day they pissed in a scrape and they watched him come back and piss on top of him because they don't care.
Oh, yeah.
I think the day that I shot my big buck in Ohio, I think I pissed out of the stand about 18 times. I was trying to figure out, I was just covering myself in it.
They don't care.
No.
No, but like you said, the wilderness deer, you smoke a butt, you do something foolish, you are done.
There's
Done.
definitely deer, like the northern deer. There's a lot of deer that have never seen people. I mean, those deer you are definitely not getting away with. But I think a lot of the deer that a lot of us hunt now,
the rural deer.
they've become very civilized.
Yeah, they
you
have.
know, those scents are, obviously scent is very important because you are in their living room.
Yes,
you know what
absolutely.
I'm saying? And you have to be very controllable about it. But there's some things in some areas that you can definitely get away with more than others.
Yeah.
I
Did
mean,
you notice that with the Sika deer?
Yeah, definitely. One thing about them is like the terrain, especially in the frag, it can get so thick that I feel like a lot of times your scent just drifts over top of it. It doesn't even sink down. It doesn't really drift down into the frag as much, so they don't really catch your wind as much. But you definitely run into a lot of deer that they have never seen somebody before, so they do catch your wind sometimes and everything like that. But it's the same thing. I mean, some deer are not scared at all, and some deer they catch your wind and they're gone in a second. It's just every one of them is a different occasion.
And it sucks to get busted too because you're wondering what it was if you don't get to see it. That irritates me. I can't count how many times that's happened where you hear blow or a snort wheeze and they're gone, and you hear the big thumps. You're like, oh God, what was that?
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the worst thing though about the Sika deer is like when they bark, they have a different like alert sound, and when they bark, it's like game over.
It's done.
Yeah,
The whole area's burned up.
Yeah, you might as well just climb out of the tree for the day.
See, that's one
Go
thing.
home.
Like when a doe blows at you, everyone says that that's it, but
No, that's not it.
no.
Nope.
I had does blowing the morning I killed my buck last. They weren't blowing at me.
No,
100%
exactly.
positive it wasn't me. I couldn't even see them, but there was deer blowing. My wind was good. And I'm like, what in the hell are they? I couldn't figure out what they were blowing at.
Now, a lot of times, I swear to God, in that ground blind that I have, again, sitting there all day and watching, I watched a doe do that communication to the lambs. I've seen this repeatedly in that field because I did the same thing. I'm like, what the hell? How am I getting busted in here?
Yeah.
But no, she brought two lambs out with her, and she disappeared. And I'm like, oh, you went to get the buck? Yes. Bring him back into the field, and I'll dump him. And she was gone forever. And then she started walking down the field, and she started to eat, and no buck. Well, the little lamb started going the other way up into the clearing, and she would turn and she would blow and start stomping her foot, and he would turn and come back. So you could be in a situation where I can see this because it's, they're 120 yards apart, they're in a field. You can't because they're in the woods, and that's her lamb not paying attention. So she's blowing and stamping her feet to get his attention to say, let's go. Quit hanging behind me. And again,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that I saw. I always thought same thing. They blow, you're busted.
Yeah.
It's not.
It
She
doesn't
was-
ruin the hunt.
Yeah.
No, it does not.
I had clients in Ohio, same thing. They'd be sitting over a food plot, and they'd have deer would be blowing in the woods, and they thought they're busted. And 2 minutes later, deer coming out of the woods into the food plot, right where the deer were blowing from.
Yeah, they definitely communicate that way.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, even just because they make that noise doesn't mean. I mean, like you said, you killed a buck right after. I've definitely had them blow, and it's not me.
100%.
Maybe another hunter or whatever the case may be.
Coyote.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not like
The sound you don't want to hear is the blow, the thump, and then the crash, bang. Then, okay, now I'm busted. Or
Right.
something. Once they're spooked, yeah.
What you really don't want to see is a little head bob.
Yeah.
and then he got
Then
you.
the stomp,
Yeah.
and then the blow. Then
It's over. Yeah, the ears going back and forth like that big buck that I missed.
Yeah.
I mean, he thinks. Well, I think he might have smelt me or her, but I mean, I would peek around the tree and he's taking his tongue and licking his nose, and then I'd look back around the tree. I'm like, oh my god, he's like 20 yards from me, and I'd peek around again. I'm like, you got to stop doing that. He's going to see you. Well, he was looking at her because she just peed right underneath that, and I look again, and his whole tongue is wetting his nose down with it. I'm like, I've seen this before. He's looking for me, or she is so strong, with the scent. And so that was cool to see, even though I didn't get to harvest him.
They're just clearing. A lot of times when you see them, they stick their
mucus.
nose up and they clean the
Yep.
the scent off of their glands that are on their nose, and then they get back to doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
But
it's just so like it's
sometimes
so
it's
cool.
bad. Sometimes it's bad when they
Yeah,
stick their
yeah.
nose
And that's
up and
what I
they
thought
start
it was,
clearing
but
it, and you're like,
she was
whoa.
like I said, she was only 20 yards from him, so I'm pretty sure all that winding was him going, that is her in heat.
Right.
So
Especially being a little bit earlier in the year. But no, you don't want to ruin a hunt, like, because you definitely do get negative things in your head. You're like, oh, it's over. It's over. What are you gonna do now? What are
How
you
many,
gonna
how
do?
many times have you read a Facebook post where maybe it's a more newer hunter, novice hunter, and he's like, I was walking into my stand in the dark and I bumped a bunch of deer. Is my hunt over?
should I back out?
No,
No.
dude, get in
No.
the tree. It doesn't even get light out for another 45 minutes.
Yeah, give it a couple hours. There's more than one deer in there.
Yeah. Actually, a lot of the times, if you jump a deer, say that you do spook a deer, you just climb. Like when I'm mobile hunting, if I jump a deer or I bust a deer out of there, I'll just climb up that same tree right then and there. Or if I have a gun, I'll sit right there. Them deer will circle back around to see what the
They
frick's
always
going
do.
on.
They wanna know who you
Especially
are.
like pre-rut.
Yep.
Yeah, I know them things are coming back around, and I know that there's a buck that might be coming into that area, so I'm going to set up right here. You know?
Exactly. And that's the same thing with me sitting in that big ground blind that I built. I'll be in there, the sun's gone down, it's legal shooting times, just finishing up, and I've got 4 does out in front of me. So do I walk out the door and just get busted by them so they don't come back out? I love live decoys. And that's where I tell everybody, grab a coyote call and just haul on it. Go nuts with it and get those. I've had them actually stand there and look at me with the coyote call.
Me too. Yeah, I've tried. Yeah.
Where I'm like, come on, are you kidding me? But most of the time, one of them will break. And once one of them, you can jitter one of them, they'll all go. But you're right. I have had to step out and go, really? And then I just saunter off. But
Especially the fields around here, I'll just call somebody to come into the field if I have to, and then just scare them off. So then the negativity's not coming from where I'm at.
yeah,
you
and that's
know?
what I did with those 4 Jakes. Even though I didn't shoot them, they went back up by me. It's getting late, and I texted the wife. I'm like, I'm gonna be late. I'm not leaving this blind until they go over the knoll and go to roost because I don't want them to know it was me making all the racket.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know what the good thing is? I hope that turkeys never are able to smell.
Oh, no kidding.
Could you
Oh, you
imagine?
just sweat your balls off going into a place and get wretched stank and absolutely.
If they could wind you, it would be over. We'd never kill one.
Okay, that would be a very smart bird. I agree.
Almost too smart.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone says they're stupid, but they remember enough.
They're dumb and they're smart in the same instance. Like sitting on the ground, which I today with you, I don't do that. Sit in a blind and get away
Right.
with murder. And I've seen guys in videos of you twitch wrong. At like you said, 60, 70 yards, you are busted. So, and that's tough for me because I've never sat on the ground and hunted that way. I've always hunted from a blind and done it that way. And again, you can get away with murder in a blind. But watching the videos of guys sit on the ground, nobody's twitching, nobody's nothing. Then you can watch those toms, their head, their eyes, they're watching. And the guy's like, I've seen enough. And they'll dust them.
They get, and and I've said this a couple of times, and I learned this actually from a good buddy of ours, Matt. You have to literally watch their feet. because when them birds are in motion and they're coming to you and they get to that area, when their feet stop forward motion,
That's it.
it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first thing you watch. You have to read that bird. When that bird comes in, and like when I had shot the double with Martic a couple weeks ago, you literally, I know when they come into that clearing and they see, like when he was talking about in his hunt,
Something's not right.
you know right away. I mean, when they start and they're coming in a forward motion and their act is, they're gobbling or they're coming
they're rotating
forward.
left
The
and
thing,
right.
thing is, you're calling. You have them so convinced there's a hen there. They know there's a hen there, and they get to that point where
And now they're
there's
looking
no
for-
hen there.
Yeah, and they're looking for anything.
Right away, they know. So I just heard her. She should be right here, and she's not there. They know something's
They
up.
know exactly what tree
Oh yeah.
you're
that's
sitting
the
at.
craziest part.
They know exactly what tree.
Yeah.
There's
And,
no question.
Bucks will do the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
They will come right to the tree you called from.
Yeah. And I remember I called you that year. I was hunting with a buddy of mine, and he had a Fox Pro. And I'm like, I ask you that. We'll take my calls. He goes, no, we'll just take my Fox Pro. I'm like, whatever. I don't care. I mean, it's your property, your hunt, your birds. I'll go with you. And we went into this field. There's 3 humongous toms with like 4 hens. We belly crawled across this farm grass. They never saw us. We got within about 100 yards roughly. We're down over a mogul. And he hit that Fox Pro. All the toms folded up the tails and took off running. Left the hens. And I called Trevor. I said, have you ever seen – this was not a junk call like somebody made a mistake on a pot call. There was a Fox Pro going off with just the hen noise. And the only thing Trevor and I come to, they must have been pressured by somebody doing the same thing, and they've heard that before because it was late season, and we're in a college community where they get hunted hard. But I've never seen 3 toms just drop tail, and all 3 of them run together. And these are 3 mature toms, left the hens, and booked it right down the field.
A lot of times you'll see that with guys that call them on the side of the road. So like literally, if you're driving around, like
Oh, and they
sometimes
keep
I'll
calling
mess
to
with
the
them.
birds.
Yeah, and they now that's a negative to them.
Yeah.
And it's getting more and more popular.
And that could
It
easily
is.
be done there because the farm goes right to the road that goes to the college. And I'm sure that, and again, nothing negative about it. Those boys love to hunt down that way. We're down in the Unity area by Unity College.
Yeah.
And, Tyler told me, he goes, these birds are wrecked. They're called a lot. And I'm like, I've never seen that happen where that call hadn't gone off with maybe 4 clucks and a couple of yelps on it. And again, they just folded a tail and gone. Insane.
How high was the sound coming out of the Fox Pro?
Not bad.
No.
No, he didn't have it cranked. It was louder than it should have been, more than a pot call.
Right.
Yep.
The only other possible theory I could throw in there is there could be a little bit of white noise that human can't hear in that recording.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, that's a very
Possible.
Good
I'm not
possibility.
saying that's what it is, but it's definitely a thought.
I mean, if it's too loud, that was one thing I was thinking of, or they've just heard 1,000,001 calls and they're just over it. I mean, that's a good
I
possibility.
would definitely say probably pressured birds. I've definitely had that happen before where you call it a bird and it just turns away, it turns around and just goes
yeah, it's
straight
just wild.
away.
You just don't expect that. Like I said, especially all 3 great big toms. You're like, all right, we're gonna get hammered, and they just and they left the hens. That's like, wow, what a bunch of chickens.
I mean, it happens late season. I mean, you see it a lot late season with the birds. I mean, like we hunted a bird this week that literally we got into his bubble. I hit the call, no gobble back, no nothing. We sat there for quite some time, did a couple of sequences, get out of there. We drive back by where the bird was because we had circled back behind him, and the bird's not there. And we didn't hear no noise, no nothing. He just
Just folded up shop.
yeah, and just disappeared. And I mean, it happens. I mean, that's just a situational. But you think if you're in his bubble,
Yeah, and of course, depending on the calls, you do like a lot of guys say, don't do the purrs and the cluck 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 because it's an upset hen. You always make sure you put some yelps in there and some clucks to change it up so that it's not always the same thing.
so that's one thing, and a lot of people don't understand. A lot of the times, some of the different cutting, is actually like a warning bad thing.
Yeah,
So
like
now
she's
you
pissed off
follow
or
it.
if something's wrong.
So it's how you react with him. So like if you're gonna cut, a lot of the times I follow it up with a yelp. So then
Absolutely.
it adds a positivity
Yep.
to the end of it, which I don't know that it's that. That's just over talking to different people.
Same here.
I've understood
Yep.
that cutting sometimes can be then related to putting.
Yep.
Or in that scenario. So you always cut, and then I just yelp. Whether it's the right cutting or the wrong cutting, I just now
Positive reinforcement.
just
at the end of it.
positive on the back end.
And again, I never had to worry about that with box calls and pot calls. You could pretty
Right.
much you can get away with a lot with those. But now learning the mouth call, It's a different scenario. The real, what I want to say, the realization or how realistic that sounds, you could really get yourself in trouble quick by doing the wrong thing.
And, one thing that we add a lot, especially late season, is just like that ground noise. Ground noise is a huge thing. I mean,
purring in the leaves.
Yep. Hitting the leaves and just little tiny yelps, soft yelps. I mean,
guys
if you
just
get
carry
too
wings with them and flap the wings and. Yep.
It's making that full circle. You do it when you're buck hunting. You do that when a lot of things. I mean, it's just you try to do those things to keep them, a little bit more involved with what's going on, and then
try to
it's a
fool
little
them
bit more
better.
positive, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Well, boys, what a great session.
Yes, sir.
Mark, you look tired.
Nah. Shawnee over here sleeping.
Yeah, he's always sleeping, bro.
He already got a nap in the
Yeah, I took a nice nap in the woods this afternoon. I'm good.
We got to.
I'm good.
Well, Mark came down to hunt, so that's what Mark's doing down in Connecticut. So he came down to hunt. We hunted this afternoon before the podcast and kind of hung out. And Mark had seen a bird.
thought I saw a bird, but it was on a bike.
It was
Trevor sent me up on a friggin'. Well, it's like 80 yards away. There's a mountain bike trail that goes by. So
I didn't know.
Trevor will take you to some weird spots. I'm telling you that
so
right
I'm
now.
old and decrepit. I'm deaf and I'm half blind. And I just saw this something about the size of a soccer ball, brown or black in color, moving at the speed of what a turkey would be coming in. So, of course, I look back at him and point. I'm like, hey, bird, 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 bird. And then nothing. He calls and calls. I'm like, that's odd. So we decide to let him sleep a few more minutes. So I saunter over in that direction to see what the hell's going on. Oh, there goes another mountain bike. I'm like, man, I could have had him easy.
Sean's back there snoring, dude, drooling. I'm like, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah,
Sean.
I look at Trevor. I'm like, did you see that? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, that's what I saw. It was a freaking guy on a mountain bike. Oh, well.
I don't know. It happens. Mountain bikers around here is a big thing. It's definitely something that we definitely tally with a lot.
No, it's too bad. 5, 6 tags. That'd be nice.
5, 6 on mountain bikers.
Yep.
Shoot a liberal.
Yeah, all you got to do is just tag the bike.
Yeah. Turkey. Liberal nuggets. Anybody? Liberal nuggets? No, not into liberal nuggets.
No, it's going to be sour.
Liberal tears.
It's going to taste like tofu.
Oh, jeez. Not good. Well, hopefully we can get Mark a bird in the next day or so. We're going to end up going out fishing. We kind of break it up, kind of hang out, and who knows what else we come up with while Mark is here. Why don't we go round table what drives you guys outdoors? Because we haven't done one of those in a while. We'll start it off, Martic.
I just did one 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, start it off, Martic.
I wasn't ready for this.
All right, we'll go with Mark then. We'll give it to Mark then.
No, what we talked about is going out and just sitting there by yourself, recharging the batteries and learning something new. And you won't learn it unless you do it. Is just get outdoors and enjoy it. I mean, it's a blessing. We're all blessed to live in this country as free as we do. I mean, come across state lines, got my gun, I'm going to hunt here, buy a license, and hang out together and do that. I mean, it drives me outdoors because it's the camaraderie. And I'm going to see something that I never saw before. It's
like a guy on a mountain bike.
Like a guy on a mountain bike. Looks like a turkey. But no, that's what it is for me. It's just again, after all these years, I still enjoy getting out. I don't need anybody. I'll sit there by myself all day and still have a good time.
How about you, Sean, man? What drives you outdoors?
Just being able to learn from everybody else and, get together with friends and new friends and being able to be around guys that are much older than me and who have experience and who I can
Are you calling
learn a
Mark
lot
old?
from.
I am old.
Oh.
He already said he was about to die and he's all decrepit.
Exactly. Well, I'm almost
Valid.
57.
Wait
so
till
I'm
he
getting
starts
there.
running and gunning with Trev.
No, but yeah, I mean, I really look up to you guys and to a lot of people in the outdoor industry that I get to be around, and it's nice being able to learn and to be able to be around it, and like you said, the camaraderie, and just even with like the trip to Maine, just being able to explore and adventure and just see things that a lot of people will never get to see.
No, and the hunting community is like that, where we will take you under our arm. We all want to do the same thing and accomplish the same thing, which you don't find that in a lot of industries.
No.
You don't, especially the liberal ones. They cannot understand why we do this, why we're all just sitting here chatting, chewing the fat. Where, like I said, we never met before. Come on in the shop. Here, have some deer meat. It's all about being the camaraderie. It really is, because we all enjoy the same thing.
Right.
How about you, Martic?
So I would say the thrill of the hunt is something that I always chase because, like, growing up, I was an athlete growing up, always playing sports, football, baseball, lacrosse, and there's certain emotions that you get as a kid playing those sports. Friday night lights, big game and all that stuff. And as you get older, I'm too old to play sports now, and I feel like there's that a dopamine drop that you get and the adrenaline you get when a big buck's coming in. It's something that you're always chasing that feeling. And as you become an adult, there's not very many places you can turn to get those emotions. And I get a lot of that from, being in the woods and the thrill of the hunt.
Absolutely, man. I absolutely love it. Guys, everybody out there. I knew
Trev,
he was going to do it.
East Coast Trev, what drives you outdoors?
I knew he was going to do it. You know what drives me outdoors are my friends. Honestly, everybody sitting around a table. It's a huge thing for me. It's a big part of my life. I love chit-chatting with people constantly, being part of people's lives. I want to hunt with as many people as I possibly can, be around those people, adventures. I mean, it's what makes me who I am, honestly. I mean, my friends and the people, even the listeners, the supporters, the people. I mean, I love just being around people in the outdoor industry and being able to see a smile on somebody's face for something that they've done, that they've never done, that my crazy ass went and did. And they're like, oh, I went and did this, or I went and did that. I mean, that's a big thing. That's what drives me to keep doing and moving forward and going above and beyond and spending time with those people and being in deer camps. And, that's a huge part of who I am. And that's really what drives me constantly every single day. It's huge, man. It's in my blood, honestly.
It's a positivity.
It is. I mean, it is. It's all about the positivity. So for you guys, everybody out there, we appreciate you guys tuning in constantly. There is a ton of videos on the YouTube side. There's a ton more coming. Steven does a phenomenal job in producing that stuff. He produces the the podcast constantly, always doing a ton of work in the back end. Sadly, we missed him out on this podcast, but he did a phenomenal job with all the YouTube videos that are coming out. Guys, go and check those things out. Give them a like. Share them with some friends. Show some people what we have going on. Hit the subscribe, the notification button. It's what keeps us kind of going on. And for everybody else, thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.